Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. My name is Rob, where today I'm going to talk about the power of the 8th gen. Man, I got to tell you, it's a pretty good week in gaming because there's lots of good things to be excited about. Tomorrow, Tuesday, September 30th, Shadow of Mordor comes out, which I'm going to be picking up on the PlayStation 4. Super excited about that one. Of course, this Friday, Smash Brothers for the 3DS launches here in the States. Goddamn, I'm going to lose my entire weekend to playing that game. I simply cannot freaking wait. I'm really hoping to find out that you can actually change the control scheme a little bit, because I kind of want to shift some of the face buttons around, and I'm really hoping you can use the D-pad for movement, but all indications seem to point to otherwise, which really sucks, but hey, that's okay. I'll make do. I think that the demo's great, and I've been able to use the slider, well enough, so I'm sure I'll get good at it, but with any luck, I can use that D-pad. Also, I've been playing a whole hell of a lot of Hyrule Warriors, of which you are watching tons of beautiful footage right now throughout this video, so definitely enjoy that, soak that shit up, because if you haven't played it, it's amazing. If you have played it, you've hopefully discovered that it's pretty amazing. Super fun as hell game. I'll be doing sort of a pseudo-review similar to what I did with Destiny sometime in the next week or so definitely stay tuned for that. But, of course, I want to get to the topic at hand, which is something, it's one of the theoretical pieces that I haven't really done in a while, where it's not so much related to any one specific piece of news. It's kind of just an idea that's been kind of brewing in my head for a little bit, but more than anything has actually been coming up on the internet in articles, press releases, quotes from game developers and studio heads and stuff over the last few weeks. I also recently guest starred on the Butterworthy podcast known as the Buttercast, episode number 6, celebrating my good friend from the Gamers at Large network, Jamie Butterworth's 800th subscriber on his channel. Really fantastic stuff, really great guy, and really cool content on his channel. So I'm going to go ahead and link that podcast below. Definitely please go and check it out. It's a great episode. We talk about a lot of cool relevant gaming topics, as well as I give links to all the different other YouTubers and Gamers at Large members who are in that podcast. So you can find a bunch of great content if you decided to go and follow and subscribe to those folks. Some good chaps there. And so as far as these quotes and these recent stories and the conversation that came up on the episode 6 of that Buttercast that I guest starred on, it has to do with the 8th generation of consoles, which is, of course, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U, and whether or not the systems are powerful enough to sustain the longer life cycle that they're shooting for. More specifically, Sony and Microsoft that actually claimed they wanted to have this current generation out for 10 years or so. That's what they're shooting for, a 10-year life cycle. The Wii U is in a very particular situation, but it still is very much a part of this conversation as well, so that's an interesting element I'll get into here. But there's a lot of claims that basically the systems might not be powerful enough to do that. Whether or not, the individual companies have done that on purpose or not, and what that actually means, and all sorts of hubbub, about what's going on with that. And I think it's a really interesting topic that I have a couple really strong feelings on, so I wanted to discuss that with you guys today. So when I think about this problem, or this debate, I should say, a couple things come to mind. Initially, it's really the thing that sparked this, which is some recent quotes about the, conversations about whether or not, like the iPhone 6, for example, which just launched, if that's just as powerful as the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which are the two more powerful of the three current gen machines. And I feel like that's all but bullshit, but it's a very interesting conversation and I think that was made by someone from EA. And it's just kind of a silly conversation that anyone would even think that that's important. And then there were some recent rumblings, even a couple weeks prior, where basically someone from Forbes magazine, and then there was also another gaming-related media site whose name is completely escaping me right now, both made public quotes stating that they perceive both the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, again, the Wii U isn't part of this specific conversation, but they perceive the PS4 and Xbox One to be already out of date, quote-unquote, or already underpowered compared to competition, which in that regard is going to be, of course, high-end PCs. And, kind of trying to spin that as a negative thing. And I can see why they're trying to spin that as a negative thing. And I know that a lot of, gamers, game fans, and especially fans of any individual specific console are going to definitely feel pretty offended or upset by that, especially if, like, the Xbox One is their favorite console. And they want to believe in their heart of hearts that it's really powerful and it's the most powerful and it can do the most things and yada yada. kind of a bunch of stuff that I feel like we don't need to be caring about anymore, but that's, again, another different part of this conversation that I'll get into in a minute as well. So I can understand why they would try to spin that negatively, because people don't want to believe that about the consoles that we love, Whether you love all consoles or just one of them, you don't ever want to hear or believe it, no matter how true it actually can be. We have this interesting sort of block in our brain, at least a lot of us, where we just kind of want to have that denial of truth about it because for some reason we think it's important. My opinion is that it really isn't or doesn't have to be important, but that's the thing. So, so people have been kind of discussing this lately. And again, most people seem to be gravitating towards this if they buy into that or believe it. And it should be noted that I am not tech savvy enough to know the truth of that. As I had said on the podcast last week, actually, I would believe that probably is true if a lot of these people are saying it, but I can't confirm it 100%. So don't expect a lot of technical jargon talking about, the chipset 99480B isn't as powerful as the 4X quad-core Millennium Falcon space. Like, I don't know any of that shit. You're not going to hear that from me. I just know what I see on the screen and how games look and feel as I play them. And that's what I care about the most, honestly. So, yeah, a lot of people are gravitating towards this and saying, especially the PC guys who think that PC gaming is the only game in town. And so they're really quick to jump on this, consoles are dumb, consoles are outdated, you all are stupid, you're peasants folk or whatever kind of fucking stupid internet terms there are for people who like this and that. And that's the way they're trying to spin it. And I think that's a shame, and I think that it's wrong. And today I'm going to tell you why. And so, as per usual, I have quite a lot of different theories and topics and angles I want to approach this from, but I'm going to actually boil it down to the simplest thing so as to try to not make a 25-minute video. The reason I think that this is silly and wrong is because I think that we are now at the point with gaming in general, not only console gaming, but also gaming in general, where this kind of stuff doesn't matter anymore. I really don't think that it matters. I feel like what your average PC can do, not even just your high-end PC can do, what your average PC can do, and what the 3 current-gen consoles can do, even the Wii U, which is the third most powerful of the 3, I think that what they can all do completely is fine and gets the job done. When people start getting, they start arguing about the text and they start comparing, this parameter to this parameter, and the PS4 has this, but the Xbox One has this. Well, my PC has this and this kind of graphics card and this. Once we start doing that, I feel like it's no longer about the gaming. It's about why you think your machine is cool and why you're cool for liking that machine. And that's always kind of existed. I mean, going way back to the 8 and 16-bit days, which I actually grew up gaming in those days. I am that old enough, just so you know. So that's always existed, but it's a very kind of unique and particular boat today with the way the whole thing kind of fits. So I feel like doing that, having reasons to compare those kinds of things, I just feel is no longer really relevant, or at least is becoming irrelevant, I should say. Maybe there's still a little bit of a reason for the conversation, but very, very soon I think that stuff is not going to matter. Right now, what's going on in gaming, especially with this huge indie surge, where these games are being created that are amazing, going up for Game of the Year, sometime winning Game of the Year, and sometimes having amazing graphics, sometimes having simplistic graphics, are still garnering major success, lots of money and revenue, of course, as well as great reviews and positive feedback from gamers. And that stuff is happening without the need for this crazy, groundbreaking next generation technology and microprocessor and graphics chipsets and all this kinds of stuff. That stuff isn't necessarily necessary. So that's one reason. The other reason is because I think that honestly, they're all just pretty goddamn powerful within their own right. The gaps between them no longer are as large as they used to be. There was a period where the consoles were a step ahead of the PCs, and I'm going back to the 80s and the IBMs and old Apples and stuff before maybe a lot of you guys were around. So don't jump down my throats yet, because you might not have been around at the time that this was true. But there was a period where what the NES could do was far better than what your average home computer do. The end. That was just definitely a fact. But again, we're going back to the 80s and the NES. And then there was a large period where, until very recently even, where PCs, like your average high-end PC, was better than what the consoles can do. And that probably didn't happen until around the 2000s, maybe. I could be wrong, but that's kind of the way I remember it happening. And it had been that way for a while. And although it's still that way, as of right now, the highest end PC you can get is going to blow even the PlayStation 4 out of the water. That's just the truth of it. But I think that the gap overall between the Wii U, the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and high-end PCs, although there is a gap between all 4 of those different aspects, I feel like it's smaller. Everything is much, much closer as far as what is capable from the machines than it ever used to be before. And in that, I feel like when you look at the best looking game that a PC can do and the best looking game that like the Wii U, for example, on the low end would be able to do, I feel like they're all still going to look good. The best looking Wii U game, even if it has a lot of, if it doesn't have a lot of the things the best looking PC game can do, for example, the best looking PlayStation 4 game, I feel like we can all look at them and say, wow, they look really good. They look really, really good. And on the flip side, let's talk about a game that would be the same on all systems. We'll use like a Battlefield 5, which isn't a game. It probably will be, but it's not right now. Let's say when Battlefield 5 comes out, if it was going to be running on a high-end PC, and it's also going to be running on a PlayStation 4, the most powerful of the current-gen consoles, yeah, the PC version is probably going to look much, much better if it's maxed out. But at the same time, because of the way PC or console architecture is, it's so much easier for developers to maximize the potential of those machines because it all works on a constant. Nothing changes. They don't have all these variables to account for because, you and your friend's PS4 are going to be the exact same machine, but you and your friend's PC may be very, very different. So it's much harder for the developers to account for what's going to be what and make that game look the best overall. So I feel like even though the PC version, I keep messing that up, PC, blah. Even though the PC version of a game is going to look quite a bit better, I feel like the best looking console version is still going to look so damned good that it won't really matter. Unless you just think it's so important to fight with your friends and other people on internet boards about how much better your PC version of Battlefield 5 looks than your shitty console PS4 version. It's just a completely asinine debate. And so not only is the difference between what the games actually looks like, not as significant as it used to be, there's one other really important thing that I think matters is that nowadays too, I think that everyone's just used to the games. They're used to good games, watching good games, playing good games, demanding good games, and in most cases, getting good games. I feel like even though some people argue that the gaming industry is heading towards a crash, and arguments about the power of systems I think would definitely lead to that, and I think that that could be possible, I feel like one of the things that is still working in the gaming industry's favor is that honestly, I think that gaming right now is great. The quality of games is great. There are so many good games coming out consistently every year for every platform that it is ridiculous. Sadly, with the exception of the PlayStation Vita, all three current-gen consoles, even the two last-gen consoles, the PS3 and 360 are getting good games. The 3DS consistently gets great games, and there's tons of great shit on PC. All of these elements, all of these formats have so many great titles coming out for them consistently that, if anything, whether a crash comes or not, the one thing we can say is there's so much good content to play that I don't think that that's going to be a factor as to why that happens. So what happens is, and this is something else I brought up on that episode of the podcast too, I think that what we're looking at is when you take a system, and now I'll go back to the Wii U, for example, as it's the least powerful of the four main platforms I'm talking about. I feel like if you have a game on the Wii U that looks as good as the Wii U can make it, which I've already established is still going to look pretty goddamn beautiful overall, but is also just a really great game, I don't think it's going to matter if a less good game comes out on the PS4 or the PC, but looks way better. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to think of a couple examples, and I can't. Like, let's say The Last of Us 2. And bear in mind, The Last of Us, the first, is probably my second favorite game of all time. So this is not picking on The Last of Us. It's just a good graphical showcase for my concept here. So The Last of Us 2 and Pikmin 4, okay? So let's say The Last of Us 2 comes out, and it is literally the best looking visuals we've ever seen in a game. It's not a very good game, but it is the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. And then Pikmin 4 comes out, and it's weird because Pikmin 3 was gorgeous, the best looking game of last year. But let's say Pikmin 4 comes out, and it looks only just as good as Pikmin 3. It's like no improvement. It's a fine, okay looking game, but it's not breaking any records, and it's not blowing anyone's minds. But it is a masterpiece of gameplay and story execution. I feel like that game is going to be could be considered more successful, could sell better, or could even review better because it's actually just a better game. And that is going to make people more excited to play it, and that system will sell more. And Last of Us 2, it may be like, wow, look at how beautiful The Last of Us 2 looks. But it's not really that fun to play. So I don't really care about the game. I don't really care about the platform it's on. That's a good example of how, and I think that a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have really run into that scenario, but I think that right now, in this generation of console gaming, in this generation of PC market, I feel like that is relevant. I feel like that's how things are right now. And I think that the Wii U has been seeing better and better success, and it is going to continue to do so because it finally has so many good games available and so many amazing games on the way. And even though they mostly do look gorgeous for sure, they're not maybe as good looking as games like like Bloodborne, on the PS4 and stuff, and whatever Uncharted 4 is going to look like, things like that. It's not going to look as good as those games, but they might actually be better games and they might play better. And there's so much good content that is going to help drive the success, in which case, bringing this whole shit full circle, which I know, again, I tangent, but here I am bringing it full circle. The purpose of that whole long analogy I just made is that if that all holds true, then how powerful the systems are simply doesn't matter. We know that PC is going to continually be leading the charge and setting the standard for power, as if that has to be important anymore, but setting the standard for power within the industry. That's fine. It can do that. And I love gorgeous games. I do like the idea of knowing I have this powerful machine and I have this amazing looking game. So I appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. But as the PC continues to set that trend and set that bar for the industry, I feel like when we look at the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U, which are all three great consoles, I feel like we have so much potential with those three consoles, and we're in really good shape. So those consoles, I think that they can still have very long life cycles and do very well for themselves, and people can still perceive them as powerful machines in their own right. And I don't think that we have to worry about if they're powerful enough or not. I think that I don't think that game systems have to be powerful enough anymore. They just have to be good enough, if that makes sense, which sounds very hippie and zen-like, but you know what I'm saying. I feel like we're getting to the point where the quality is going to be the defining factor, and it's not just going to be the power. Obviously, you need to have advances in technology, and your systems do need to be powerful and keep up the best they can. But I feel like even, let's say in 7 or 8 years, we're still playing on the PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U. Provided all the games coming out are really good, they're going to look gorgeous. They're probably going to be doing just fine compared to PC counterparts. And those systems could still be selling really well and satisfying gamers because they could be releasing good games. A good system with good library and a unique library will do well regardless of the visual capability, I think. Yes, visual capability is important. Yes, we all want it and enjoy it, myself included, but I don't think it is any more the necessary ingredient and requirement for success that it kind of was going back to the 6th and 7th gen, when that was like really a big deal, when really good graphics were new things. We've been seeing great graphics for a long time now. It no longer is the trendsetter. It really comes down to quality. I think so, at least. So, in no surprise, I, of course, ended up making a much longer video than I anticipated because I had a lot to say on the topic. I've been thinking about it for a while, and these recent conversations about if consoles are powerful enough or if they're underpowered or whatever really was something that I've been thinking about and wanted to talk about for a while. And again, to finalize my point, I don't think it fucking matters. That's what it really comes down to. If you think it matters, then I think you're kind of doing gaming wrong. Only because I can confidently say all the consoles, handhelds, and PC are all competent enough right now. Like, if there was something really lagging behind, like how the Wii itself was so far behind its competition, there would be a different conversation happening here. But right now, everything is like on enough of a power parity that I think that we're okay. And we don't have to worry and stop letting it bother you. Who cares? If the PS4 and Xbox One are already out of date, I mean, that's unfortunate, but oh well. You know what? If those systems start releasing really great games, it's taken them a while, but I feel like it's coming soon for those systems. If they start releasing great games and they maintain that, you know what? It's not going to matter. And just you watch those systems continue to be successful. PlayStation 4 is a great example. It's the fastest selling system of all time. It's done amazing in its first year, and apparently some people think it's underpowered. So there you go. I mean, and that's without games. Wait till that system actually has games. It's going to be unreal. So that's my point. I'm talking myself in circles, which I always do at the end of the video, so sorry. But, that's what I've got to say. I don't think it matters, and it's silly to think it matters. You know what? Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, just keep making good games. That's all you got to do. If you make good games, we will buy them, and we will love and support you. And, I'm going to keep playing on my PC and on my consoles and my 3DS, and I'm going to keep loving that stuff. So that's my whole long conversation for today. Thank you for tuning in and checking out the entire long-winded thing. Please share your thoughts below. A lot to talk about. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me, and that's okay. You've heard my opinion. Now I want to hear yours and have other people kind of get in a back and forth with you guys. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with me? Are systems doomed, or are they doing okay? So that's it. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to Rule of Two Review. Like and share the video. Share your comments and your thoughts below. And of course, I will catch you guys on the next video.